Hey, and welcome to episode 2 of the Life Purpose series. Who wants to change? So, as a little slight recap from episode 1, hopefully we are pretty clear now that we are on the crossroads of the most amazing shift in our evolutionary history, and the fact that in order to create the change that we want to see in the world, that we have a huge opportunity right now to, as the last episode finished off on, be the change we want to see in the world. And what does that look like to be the change you want to see in the world? Well, it's going to look like the end to financial issues. It's going to look like the end to conflict and war. And it's going to look like the change and the new systems that are going to come up and replace the old ways of doing things on every level, from the way our financial systems run, the way our educational systems run, our health system is run. There is this huge period of change going on right now. So I'm going to come back to the original little picture that was in episode 1. Mostly everyone really realizes that they want change. We appreciate we need things to change. And then we come to this episode 2 of who wants to change, which can often be the toughest thing, because we kind of don't know what a new system, what new ways of doing things look like, because we've only experienced the established ways so far. And what I want to talk to you about today is that there's a part of us in, as you remember from the first timeline that we talked about, Kali Yuga, where we are moving from the age of materialistic, of survival, and we're moving into the age of energy, of thriving, of individuality. And our mind, our brain is the main thing in Kali Yuga. Brain is primarily in most cases in Kali Yuga, the brain is being used for survival purposes, not for thriving purposes. It's there to detect what feelings, what emotions, what energy is going on inside of you, and concoct a story as to why that might be on the outside. What danger is it looking for? So in Kali Yuga, our mind is often looking for constant danger, looking for the negative, looking for the worst case scenario, glass half empty, fearful based goggles, compared to opportunity and problem solving and new ways of doing things. And that's where we want to shift over to, right? In order to create that. But right now our mind is saying, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what new would look like. And of course, your mind doesn't know what it looks like, because it's not your mind that creates it. As you'll see today, it's a matter of shifting your consciousness to receive the information about the new ways of doing things and the solutions, not your mind trying to figure it out on its own. So as you guys may have recalled, back in 2012, which was quite interesting actually, because that's right slap bang if we think about the Mayan end of the long calendar, end of the long cycle was actually 21st of December 2012. So it was quite interesting in the UK that we actually had a digital switchover where our TV channels moved from analog, where at that time we had access to 5 TV channels, and it was moving over to digital, where we had all of a sudden access to so many more channels and therefore so much more information. And consciousness is very much like this. Consciousness is, you can think of when we talked about those 4 ages in the yugas. Here it comes. There we go. We have Satya Yuga, we have Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. These are the four stages or 4 points in time of consciousness. In Satya Yuga, it's like having access to all of the TV stations, all of the information you can receive. And In Treta Yuga, as we reduce our consciousness, we lose access to many of those channels. So in Satya Yuga, we just understand how everything works. We understand how energy works, the power of our mind, how to create universes, how to create anything we want. We're gods, essentially, and we understand consciousness and what we might call God or source or whatever. We understand all of that, and we're at one with all of that. Gradually, as consciousness diminishes, we lose some of that information. It's like having certain channels unavailable anymore. So it's like we forget the information because we can't receive it any longer. So in Treta Yuga, we still have access to a lot of information. We still have access to our physical body, our energy, and our mind is the age of the mind in Treta Yuga, the power of the mind. Now, gradually over 12,000 years, as that reduces further, we lose that information coming in, that understanding about how our mind, how powerful our mind is. We forget all of that, and we're reduced to how the power of our energy and how that works, and our physical sense. And then gradually we lose that energy, and we're down into the most barbaric, animalistic Kali Yuga, where we don't know how our energy impacts our reality, and we certainly don't know the power of our mind, and we certainly can't get a grasp on a pure understanding such amazing higher states of consciousness of being connected to God or source and the fullness of what's available. So we, as you can see in this chart, we have been in Kali Yuga for quite a while. We have been quite barbaric, and we have created a world based on the survival nature of just having access to a very restricted bandwidth of information. And therefore we act upon that. So what does life look like? As you can see in this one, we've just been coming out. We've been transitioning from Kali Yuga into Dwapara, where we're starting to bring our energy understanding. Our channels are opening back up. We're receiving information once again about energy and energy within us and how we can affect our reality with energy. And it's no wonder that certain methodologies and teachings and philosophies are starting to gain much more traction and come back. Things like yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and traditional Chinese medicine and Tantra and energy healing in lots of its various forms are really starting to boom right now, mainly because we're now starting to reconnect to that energy of Dwapara Yuga, and we're getting an understanding because we're receiving the signal, the broadcast, about how to use that, because we'd forgotten in Kali Yuga. So what does life look like in Kali Yuga? Well, essentially, life is pretty barbaric. And this is what creates war, because essentially what we're doing is it's the survival of the fittest. It's the battle for resources. It's the battle for territory and power and control. And that's what we have created over the past couple of 1,000 years. And that's what we're used to. And we're seeing this kind of end transition point from Kali Yuga into Dwapara Yuga now. And we're seeing it at its absolute worst before we start to come into the new Dwapara Yuga age. So what do we see towards the end of Kali Yuga? We see war, which has been, of course, prolific throughout all of Kali Yuga. We're seeing at the cost of living, the price of everything going up, and the inability for us to financially have any control over that. The people at the top get richer, the people at the bottom get poorer, and it's one big hierarchy that's way out of balance. And it's been building its way out of balance. It's been getting that separation has been getting more and more divided over cycles and cycles and cycles for many hundreds and hundreds of years. Obviously, we're seeing this kind of massive boost, this cost of energy. Interestingly, we're coming into the energy age, but what we're seeing is the cost of non-renewable energy, your gas and your coal, etc., in the fact that it's costing so much more now because of the global crisis that are going on many levels. Plus, we're seeing ourselves unable to manage our own energy. So we have this huge issue with our mental health. And our mental health is nothing to do with our mind. Is to do with us not learning how to control the energy within us. And by stepping into Dwapara Yuga and everything I'm going to teach you guys your mental health will improve massively as a result of being able to control your mental health and understanding what that actually means. Now, where we're stepping into is Dwapara Yuga. What is a world that consciousness is built with Dwapara Yuga? It means that we support each other. It means that we collaborate with each other. It's not survival of the fittest, dog eat dog. It means we share resources. The resources aren't just pulled at the top for a tiny minority who hold all the cards, who hold all the power. It is built equality, and these systems have been tried to have been built before. And as you would look at these and go, hang on a minute, these sounds like certain ideologies. This is nothing new. This looks like some sort of utopian society. And I would say these ideas have come to the surface, and they're wonderful ideas, but without the consciousness to actually execute on them, it's impossible. Because with Kali Yuga consciousness, you can have the idea for the type of community and the world community and the structure that you want to build, but unfortunately with the consciousness not being there, it is just going to be another version of the old ways of doing things, a Kali Yuga way of doing things, where there is still a hierarchy. There's still the top controlling the rest underneath. And, you know, although we like the idea, it hasn't worked out in reality. Like communism, for instance, is a good example of that. Looks all very well on paper, but still there's the top with all the power and the control. It's uniqueness in Dwapara Yuga. It's not everyone is just a cog in a machine, and that machine makes money, and then that money goes to the top, and then the people at the top have all the money and the power, and you're just a number. You're just a cog. You're just a sheep in the whole system. Dwapara Yuga means uniqueness. Everyone is magnificently unique and powerful. And that's where we come down to our individual power. In Kali Yuga, the vast majority are powerless. In Dwapara Yuga, every individual is powerful. And that's where we want to get to, because we can protest all we like about the old systems, but truly it's like Clark Kent protesting about the baddies in the world, and really not realizing that he's freaking Superman, and that all he has to do is just switch over to his Superman skills that he doesn't realize he has. And what he will find is he can go and sort the baddies out himself. He can solve the problems himself. He doesn't have to change the system or want for anyone else to do it. He has the power. He can change the reality himself with the skills. Now, all of us are like superheroes with the unique skills, and therefore that's where we find our power. But we have to receive that information. So what it looks like is we're very much like a TV set. We are receiving signals. Without the signal, we're just a shell. We're just a piece of technology. When we receive the broadcast, it comes through us and it gets put on the screen, and we go, wow, I've got a great idea. All these ideas, everything that we experience as our reality is due to our interpretation of a signal. And so there is a much grander divine signal being broadcast. And that's really what your chakra system is all about, which you can see on the right-hand side here. The chakras you can purely think about are just like different antennae, different receivers for certain types of information. The more receivers you have available or pointing in the right direction, or turned on even, the more information you can receive and therefore understand. So when we go back to that whole concept of the yugas, in Kali Yuga, we have very few of our antennas switched on, and therefore we're receiving very limited information, and therefore we build societies and communities and everything based on this limited information, which is very much based, like I said before, around survival. As consciousness expands and we move into Dwapara Yuga, more chakras, more receivers come online, and we start having this influx of new information that we weren't receiving before. which allows us to create the newness that's going on. But just like the 2012 analog to digital switchover, there was a lot of people who got very comfortable with their 5 TV channels and their established way of doing it. They seemed very happy, and why not when you don't know any different, but they seemed very happy with what they had. And so when the digital switchover came over, and we were told that by changing your aerial that's pointing in a different direction and changing your receiver set, essentially, you can receive all this new information. There was plenty of people in the beginning who went, I'm fine, thanks. I'm very happy with what I've got, because the unknown is scary. The change from what you do know is actually a scary thing. Better the devil you do know. We're often very uncomfortable to change, hence the title of this talk. And so we actually have this opportunity right now, because our consciousness we have access to, in effect, way more information in the Dwapara age than we had in the Kali Yuga age. And we can make that switch over. But to make that switch over, we have to shift the way our antennas work. And so this is like, as I'm showing you here, the 3 lower chakras. And in analog, as you can see on the left, this is in Kali Yuga. This is what it looks like. We use the top one, which is our Manipura chakra, to suppress and dominate and control this middle orange one, which is Svadhisthana chakra, which is our uniqueness. It's our vision. It's our individuality. So in order to actually, and it's also our emotion, our sexuality, our sexual energy. It's also very feminine by nature. So you only have to look at Kali Yuga and say, okay, the suppression of feminine energy, of emotions, keep your emotions held down, just carry on, keep calm and carry on is such a big merchandise phrase that's used in the UK especially. And we only have to look at the suppression of sexuality from religion. We only have to look at the suppression of feminine rights and this kind of hierarchy of having the masculine in control and dominating and the feminine being pushed down. That's the feminine within all of us, all of our emotions, all of our uniqueness, all of our sexuality in a way that's much more accessible, much more nourishing. And of course, we have that energy and knowledge and abundance of the root chakra, Muladhara, right at the bottom. So we're all going to be also lacking in energy, lacking in health, lacking in abundance. And so when we make this digital switch over from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga, this is now what the chakras start functioning like. Suddenly, that from the bottom there, Muladhara energy and knowledge and abundance starts to rise up. So when we make this switch over, we start to find that we have way more energy, because we're actually tapping into the energy around us. We're not disconnecting and becoming separate from our environment. Dog eat dog, individual, lone wolf. It becomes much more about your energy system opens up to receive. And when we're opening and we're receiving more information, but we're also opening up our energy systems to receive more energy from around us naturally. We're less disconnected. As Svadhisthana opens up much more and shifts towards being able to function without being suppressed, it means uniqueness comes to the surface. Vision, unique vision. This is where all the new systems, structures, businesses, ways you're going to impact the world positively. Vision in doing something you're absolutely passionate about and can't wait to get off the ground and start doing. All of your individuality starts to stick out like a sore thumb, which means you're vulnerable from a survival sense. Because in Kali Yuga, you don't want to be individual and stick out like a sore thumb, because you make yourself a sitting duck, a sitting target, and you can become a black sheep that rocks the boat and then ruins the whole machine of everyone having to, be a cog, be a sheep. You start to stick out. Like I say, you become the black sheep. Everyone becomes a black sheep. In fact, everyone realizes that they are mostly amazing individuals with a superhero skill set of their own. when we shift over to this digital age, this Dwapara age, what we start to find is all of this comes to the surface, and life gets really exciting off the back of that. What we also find is we start connecting with other people that have also made this shift, this switch over. And that gives you a lot of courage to step out into that world and shine this unique individual light and express your ideas that no one's ever heard of before. And you'll gain support from these people. And it's the actual chakra of taking action on that individuality rather than trying to fit in and keeping all these wonderful ideas or potential ideas to yourself or having them suppressed even. You actually take action and we start to actually create the change we want to see in the world. That's what the Manipura chakra is all about. And the cool thing is, like from 10, 15 years ago, I guess when I made my consciousness switch over, is that there was way less people who had made the switch over. So I felt very alone and I didn't feel very supportive. And I had to try and still work out a lot of things myself. And I stuck out like a sore thumb and looked like the weirdo, the outcast, a bit too out there in inverted commas. And it just wasn't the time then, 10, 15 years ago. Now is the time, guys. And, you know, what does life look like in analog, in Kali Yuga? It looks like, what does your life look like? It looks like you're just on the treadmill of life or the merry-go-round of life. It looks like Groundhog Day. It doesn't look exciting. You don't wake up every morning absolutely buzzing to impact the world and do something you love. It doesn't. It looks like failed relationships. It looks like it's like relationships that seriously lack in why can't I think of the word? Lack sexual connection, intimacy is the word I was looking for. It looks like that you're struggling financially. It looks like you don't have any power and you're backed against a wall to actually make ends meet and get anything done. If that is what life feels like to you, then you're in your analog still, but you can so switch over. Don't sit just watching the same 5 channels complaining about what's going on. Make the switch over and then watch how it all comes to the surface, because that's truly what is available to us right now. And so how do we do that? How do we make the switch over? If we do feel like we want to make a change, if we are sick and tired of scratching around, having very little passion and connection in our life, not being inspired, struggling, how can we make that change? How do we make this jump from analog to digital? Well, I met a guy quite a few years ago now. It was about 10 years ago to me. Amazing healer. And I've worked quite a bit with him now. And I've been working with this. 10 years ago when I started doing this, people just rolled their eyes. And that's why for 10 years I stuck with the Pilates and even the hands-on body work, the fascial work that I did. But right now, pretty much all my stuff is focused on the healing. Now, I've trained I've done lots more in-depth healing. I didn't just want to do a big drop-down menu and say, oh, I've worked with this person and that person, this one and this one. This world has been my world for 10 years, but I've kind of kept that individual freaky nature under wraps. And amazingly, I've had the opportunity recently to start working more with this work, and it is changing people's lives. It is essentially how we make that swift switchover. It's like I am a digital engineer that will come to your house. I will take your old analog aerial off your roof and chuck it in a bin, and I'll fit you out with a nice new, brand new digital aerial, and I'll link those cables up to your TV, and you switch your TV on, and all of this new information will come in. And you'll be like, wow, I've had the best idea, and I'm so passionate about this thing right now, and I want to be creative in this idea, and I've got so much energy to put towards this. This is what I've been seeing with my clients for quite a few years now, is that it's the energetic side of things. I hadn't realized it was the energetic side, but it's the energetic side of things that has been making the big shift, the big switch over. And it's something that I can help with you guys to help happen. And I hope to show you guys more and more of client testimonials, because it happens every single time. Someone's where they're at, struggling, and it could be any area of their life. Like I say, it could be relationship. It could be lack of motivation in a career. They might not like where they live. They might need to get out of somewhere they really don't like. It might be their health. It could be all sorts of different things. These are all just symptoms of being stuck in Kali Yuga. When we shift to Dwapara Yuga, we make that upgrade, or an upgrade's a good way of looking at it, or we make that shift. Suddenly those things start to sort themselves out because they were symptoms of consciousness. When you shift your consciousness and expand it, you start to receive information on the solutions. And as you saw in Manipura Chakra, you start to take action, not doing the same stuff. What's that? Another great quote from Einstein: the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. If you want a different outcome, then we've got to start doing things differently. And the way you start doing things differently is by upgrading, receiving new information that then you act upon, which takes you in a new direction. And I can say categorically, it's a way better direction that you're going to be going in than the one you've been going around in circles as for a very long time. So you can literally have this upgrade in 3 sessions with me. I run them as 3 sessions. They are online. I know, how on earth does that work? I get it. That's the most common question. Surely we have to be in person for this to work. I found massively from recent experience that it works way better online over Zoom. We don't have to use Zoom. It just makes it a really useful way to connect, so I can see you, you can see me. It's such a relaxing process of you literally being at home in a very safe space that you feel comfortable in. And because we're separate, there is no expectation of actually the physical body. You can actually truly receive, be open to receiving on an energetic level, because you're not coming for anything physical. So your focus and consciousness is not there. It's in a completely open and receptive state that your chances are, you would never have been. And follow me on Instagram is my main kind of media for me to showcase and show you guys how it all works and what it's all about. Client testimonials, real life sessions in action, etc., etc. But you can just private message me at the moment, because at the moment I'm just developing my new website. So you can book in, but you can book in privately with me right now for those 3 sessions. I'm also launching a group energy session. So if you're still like, oh, I don't know, this seems a bit weird, for such a tiny little investment, you can experience it for yourself in a group without having to fully commit and go all in with me. So the big thing is, this is why this is a 3-part series, is that 10, 15 years ago, when I really lacked the support, enough people on my wavelength who could collaborate with me, who could help me, who could assist me, is that I've been creating something, and I still am creating something pretty damn special. And that is bringing people who have made the digital switchover together. And that's where in Dwapara Yuga, we create the support structure, the real positive community where we assist each other to thrive with these new ideas. And we really help build that personal brand. If you want to build a personal brand, we can overcome the fears, all the negative stuff that's been holding us back in our Kali Yuga consciousness from taking action. So huge amounts of healing, huge amounts of progress, huge amounts of support. So no one who steps through this process with me and steps into this group is left behind. No one is left to figure it out for themselves anymore. This is a group where people help everyone to thrive. It's not the dog eat dog, old Kali Yuga. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not lone wolf. It is community, it's passion, it's connection, it's support, it's collaboration. And that's what I'll be presenting in episode 3, what that actually looks like. As you go back to the very first slide, who wants to lead the change is going to be the title, of course, of episode 3. And it's going to be the people who have made that switch over, the people who are the unique ones, the leaders, the ones who are creating the new structures and new ideas and new everything. These are the leaders. I'm one of them. I'm building this awesome group of others, people who have worked with me, who have accessed and done this switch up, this upgrade, people who I've met along the way, who I see have already made that upgrade. And we're collaborating together and we're helping each other to really smash it out the park. So if you want to find out what that looks like, check out episode 3 next week. I'll be going into more detail as to what that structure looks like, how it's working. It's right in its initial stages. So if you want to get on board right at this developmental stage, this is your best opportunity to get in right at the beginning before it all blows up, and inevitably is going to have a lot of value and is going to be essentially more expensive and cost more to come through this system, when we know what we're offering is something huge that is absolutely going to deliver and help anyone to smash it out the park in life, because it's going to have every resource you'll ever need to make it happen. That's the end of episode 2. I can't wait to deliver episode 3, because this group is looking really special and really exciting. And I hope to connect with you. Drop me a message at any point. Ask any questions. I'm at this point where I'm building this phenomenal new way, new group, new resourceful community. And I'd love as many people as possible to be a part of